Franz Kafka didn't write horror. He didn't write science fiction or fantasy either. But somehow his stories feel more unsettling than most horror films, more bizarre than any fantasy, and more real than we're comfortable admitting. Kafka didn't just write stories. He gave us a way to describe an experience, one that still defines modern life. Kafkaesque. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot. People use it to describe DMV visits, court hearings, tech support calls, or dreams that turn on you. But what does Kafkaesque really mean? To answer that, we have to understand Kafka, the person, and the strange, oppressive world he lived in. Franz Kafka was born in 1883 in Prague, a city under the rule of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was a German-speaking Jew in a Czech-speaking Catholic city, caught between cultures, nations, and identities before he could even spell his name. His father, Hermann Kafka, was a domineering businessman, loud, proud, and endlessly disappointed in his fragile, introverted son. Franz, by contrast, was anxious, quiet, and chronically ill. He often felt like he existed only to fail expectations he never agreed to in the first place. He studied law not because he wanted to, but because it was acceptable. He worked in an insurance office, filing reports and slogging through paperwork day after day. Kafka's real life was filled with rules, orders, offices, forms, procedures, the very machinery of modern bureaucracy, and it crushed him. But late at night, when the world went quiet, Kafka wrote, alone, under dim lamps and rising fevers. He created stories that felt both dreamlike and disturbingly familiar. In the trial, a man is arrested without being told why. He spends the entire novel trying to navigate a court system that offers no logic, no clarity, and no exit. In the castle, another man attempts to gain access to a mysterious building governed by unreachable authorities, only to be endlessly delayed, redirected, and ignored. And in Metamorphosis, a traveling salesman wakes up one morning transformed into a monstrous insect. His first concern? Not the transformation, but the fact that he's going to be late for work. This is Kafkaesque, the feeling of being caught inside a system or situation that defies logic, resists explanation, and offers no escape. It's not just about government or law, it's about life. The surreal moments when the world keeps moving, but nothing makes sense. At its heart, the Kafkaesque is not about monsters or villains. It's about confusion, alienation, the overwhelming sense that something is off, but no one else seems to notice. What makes Kafka's stories so haunting is that his characters never break down. They don't scream at the system. They don't rebel. They comply. They apologize. They try to make it work. And they fail, quietly. Kafka's world is one where the rules are always changing, the goal is never clear, and the game was rigged long before you were born. But here's the strange part. Kafka wasn't writing about dystopias. He was writing about the ordinary. His stories feel surreal not because they're impossible, but because they reveal the absurdity buried inside what we consider normal. Why does a grown man feel guilty for not knowing the reason for his own arrest? Why does a giant insect worry about his job performance? Why do we wait on hold for hours, file forms that don't matter, follow instructions we don't understand? Because we've been taught that obedience is survival and that asking too many questions is dangerous. Kafka's genius was in showing us just how far that obedience can go, how it seeps into our language, our thoughts, our self-worth. And yet, Kafka's work isn't simply bleak. There's something deeper at play, something almost noble. Despite being overwhelmed, Kafka's characters keep moving. They keep asking questions. They keep trying to understand, even when there's nothing to understand. It's not heroic in a traditional sense, but there's a quiet, tragic dignity in their refusal to give up, even when everything suggests they should. Kafka himself never believed in his own brilliance. He was riddled with doubt and never considered his work worthy of publication. On his deathbed, he instructed Max Brod, his closest friend, to burn all of it. Brod ignored him, and because of that choice, the world gained one of its most powerful philosophical voices. Kafka's legacy is not just literary, it's existential, it's emotional, it's personal. He gave shape to an experience that so many of us have, but can't explain. The feeling of being small in a system too big to see. The feeling that you're always one step behind in a game you don't remember agreeing to play. We call that experience Kafkaesque. But what Kafka showed us is that even in a senseless world, we still seek sense. Even in absurdity, we still resist. We file the forms. We show up to court. We carry the burden, not because it makes sense, but because we're human. And in that quiet struggle, Kafka found something sacred. He once wrote, "The meaning of life is that it ends." But in his work, he gave us something else. Not meaning, but honesty. Not hope, but clarity. Not salvation, but solidarity. Kafka never promised that things would make sense, but he helped us feel less alone in the confusion. And maybe, in a world that still feels Kafkaesque, that's enough.